Hello, I'm Emma-Louise Coffey and you're welcome to the Dairy Edge, the Teagasc Dairy podcast. We're bringing you the latest information, insights and opinion to improve dairy farm performance. On this week's episode, Abigail Ryan considers how labour requirements will evolve on dairy farms over the next decade and what farmers can do to adapt to meet these requirements.
It has evolved a lot from a labour point of view. The young farmers of the future that were surveyed definitely have indicated they will be working less hours as they seem to want a more balanced work life. They will get the tasks done in a more organised way, and right throughout the survey the feedback was all about organisation. And I guess if you want to employ staff, they will go to a farmer with better facilities and a more structured roster. That was another key message in the survey.
And you mentioned these are young farmers. Can you give us a profile of those who engaged with this survey? Where were they from?
Yeah, so there was 123 of them surveyed, and they were young farmer graduates, final year ag colleges right throughout Ireland, some third level universities, and Emma-Louise, your own professional farm manager diploma course students from that, and graduates that are now working as farm managers on the course. So Emma-Louise, the structure then, 63% of them indicated they would be farm owners in the future. 23% of them would be in some sort of farm partnership. 3% of them said they'd be share farming. And then 11% of them said they'd be just working on farms. So there was quite a representation across the board.
Yeah, a very broad spectrum. And Abigail, right now, is there an indication of any of their labour input in terms of hours worked or, time that they take off the farm?
Yeah, so you could say in essence or in summary, it's a bit all over the place, which would be a bit worrying because it's nice when people take a structured time off so that they have a bit of time to recuperate and even be ready for the busy season ahead. So just to pull out one piece of information there, only 30% of them said they take 1 full week's holidays, whereas imagine half of those were taking individual days off during the year. So I would say from that, people should put a bit more planning into that time as well, which I'll allude to later on in the questions that you're going to be asking me.
And to take that a step further, time off, 30%, really, really low figure in terms of the farmers that you would have surveyed taking a week off, a block of a week. What do you recommend, or what would you see as what farmers should target in terms of time off, be it a farm owner or a farm employee?
So I suppose you're asking what would the ideal workload, or what do these guys see as their future ideal workload? So I suppose farmers in the future, they will be working fewer hours. They are looking for better facilities and they want a very organised structure. And I've used that word already, and simply because it has been used a lot in the survey by the respondents. The farmer managing their own herd that hasn't enough cows to employ labour, it's a little bit more of a challenge because they won't have enough cows to have somebody full time, but they definitely will have to be more conscious and should be with their with the workload. And like maybe they should look to things like getting in some relief workers at certain times of the year, take some days off, have a calf rearer, for example. Some of these people might be lucky enough to have people at home or family to help them on the farm. The larger scale farmers then obviously will be employing labour, and they have to be really well organised again, excellent communicators and really good at people management. But their facilities will have to be excellent because the people that tick all those boxes are going to get the better staff or employees. I would say as well, future farmers, they want to be finished work by 6 p.m. This message came out from the survey, which means they're going to be starting work at about 7 a.m. in the morning. Quarter of them said they want to work 50 hours per week, and 20% felt they were going to work less. However, you still had 20% of the respondents indicating they would be working more than 60 hours a week, which is a lot. And interestingly, I was surprised with the amount of people. There was 80% of the respondents would like 2-3 weekends off per month in the future, which is a lot more, I would say, than what people are taking off now. So that message was strong as well, Emma-Louise.
So let's dive into a little bit of this information and the results from the survey. You talk about larger scale farms where there is employed labour. Farmers need to be very good communicators and people managers. For farmers who are listening today and they're in the situation where they are employing labour or they intend on employing labour in the future, how can you develop these skills? Or, is there areas that you could train in order to do so?
Yeah, so I suppose we have only a short time here, Emma-Louise, to talk about these things. So just maybe a couple of brief points, and I'm sure there's lots more. Some farmers, by the way, are already really efficient, and Marion Beecher's work in Moore Park would say that already, like they're already hitting these targets. So I suppose what the majority are trying to work out is how do we get to those? And these people are very efficient and are already very organized. Obviously, it depends on what stage these future farmers are going to be at. Like, are they going to have to develop a farm? Are they expanding? So like the early years are going to be, you're going to be working longer hours, and we can debate whether you should or shouldn't, but look, that's the way it is. So once the business is well established, then the daily structure of responsible or reasonable finishing times, weekends off, is very achievable. So I suppose outside the busy calving season, the respondents acknowledged that for the 6-week calving season, it is going to be very busy. I think at that, once we move then out of the breeding season, we should be able to match the industry hours, because on farm, you're going to be living on the farm, so you're not including driving time to work. So just a couple of things. Nolly Heffernan, who is a private consultant, she has developed the weekly planner and the yearly planner with ourselves, and it's really, really successful. It's a simple tool, very effective. And back to your first question, Emma-Louise, on time off, it really helps you pinpoint that and get a structure. Second thing is excellent communication and people management skills are a must, especially if you're going to be an employer or even an employee. It works both ways. Martina Gormley from Teagasc has a number of these courses on people management already rolled out over the last few years, and she's planning on another one soon. She runs it in conjunction with the co-ops and with MOCRA, and I'd say this course is a must if you are wanting to improve your skills as an employer and gaining a lot of other skills by doing that course, and it's a short course. Thirdly, highly skilled individuals. It was interesting that the respondents, who were all very, very young people, still saw that farmers needed to have 3 to 4 years in university or college and experience as well. So Emma-Louise, your course on the professional farm manager is a really successful course, and young people thinking of going into the industry should be doing that course. And you've incorporated a lot of these points already in the course, and either they may become employers or they could be employees. So it's a good course from that point of view. And I'm nearly finished on your point now, but I suppose while I've alluded to education as well, there's a lot of work and technologies developed in Moore Park that are important. Simple things like number of rows milking, and the grassland calculator, or measuring grass, getting the cows out early. That's a skill. It's another thing that means if cows are out early, you're not going to be lying in cubicles or inside, that they'll be outside and healthy. There'll definitely be a really good or greater emphasis required for flexible working arrangements. For example, maybe contract rearing, maybe somebody specifically to rear the calves. There's an awful lot of paperwork attached to the farm now, even simple things like tagging calves and registering. Maybe someone should be contracted to do that. Contract out the HR to your accountant. I believe as well there's going to be a role in the future for non-farming people that have interest in working in the outdoors, that they may fill the gaps perhaps at weekends. Look, the list is endless, and farmers themselves and these young people in the survey will also be providing ideas. And finally, I'd say that facilities are really important on farms, whether it be simple drafting, a good canteen, ideal number of rows per cow. Again, the list is endless, but like the people in the survey have indicated a lot of these things were important to them as to have an ideal workplace.
I think there's a long list of tools and technologies and training that you've listed there, and I think there's no harm for people maybe to rewind and listen to that information once more, Abigail. There's just a huge amount there. Like you talk about the simple weekly and yearly planner it's, once it's done, it provides a huge amount of organisation to a farm. You also mentioned the people management course that Martina Gormley is working with, and really, really good for farmers as employers. And I am biased, but the professional diploma in dairy farm management course is excellent, and you would know many of the graduates of the course, Abigail, and they are champions in the industry. Really, really excellent success stories that have gone through their education at Teagasc. To go back, Abigail, and talk about that the 50-hour working week that 25% or a quarter of those surveyed said that they would like to achieve. And you mentioned that finishing at 6 p.m. would mean that you are starting at, say, 7 a.m. Some people would still be sticking to, quite a long milking interval, and and therefore it is impossible to get off the farm and maybe achieve that 12-hour working window from start time to finish time. Can you make a comment on that and a recommendation, based on morning milking, when would it be appropriate to start your evening milking?
Yeah, and I mean, research would indicate about that interval there shouldn't be a difference, Emma-Louise, and I'd be really strong on that. In my work from Greenfield, we would have always, tried to lead on that point where, the working hours were, we had full employees, there wasn't a farm owner, so it was important to them, their time off, and they worked really hard during the window. So cups were on the cows at 7 a.m. in the morning. Depending where the cows were in the farm, if it was a long walk, they had to go for the cows at 3 p.m. and start milking at 3:30. And, right throughout the summer when the busy season was over, it was up to the guys there to be finished even by 5:30. And that's about how you organize your day. And I would speak to an awful lot of groups on this. And, the really good guys would make a comment, no matter what other job you're at during the day, the milking should be your main job. Marion's work would say it takes up a third of the working year. So if 3 p.m. is when you go for the cows, all tools should be put down at that time and go for the cows. Don't be letting it slip on by half an hour, etc. Guys going training or girls going to, camogie, whatever it is, they want to be finished and they have a set time to go to training. So you have to be disciplined with your start and finish time. That's just my tuppenny bit, and I'm just probably quoting or stealing other people's ideas, what they've told me at group meetings, etc.
It's an interesting one, and when you talk about at the less busy times of year, once cows are calved and once cows are bred, matching industry hours, and that is indeed what a lot of people are looking to replicate within dairy farms. And back to Martina Gormley, I would have asked her, is it achievable for staff on farms to have weekends off or work that 5-2 roster? And I guess that's a strong indication in terms of what you're seeing. People want more weekends off, say from farms. What do you see as a good balance? Is it a thing that relief could come in for 3 of 4 weekends in a month?
Yeah, so I suppose now we're in a situation where already, many farmers will say to you, it's difficult to find staff. So now we're saying into the future, we're going to have to find more relief staff for weekends or whatever. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge. But at the same time, the good employees will, if they're deciding to take more weekends off, they'll have a system in place. They'll have 3 or 4 relief milkers on speed dial. There's no point in having just one. And I think we have to encourage, if we're not finding it within the community we live in, or agencies, maybe then we have to start looking in other places. Maybe by having our places much more attractive, it's a place where maybe more young people might like to work. And, I know from relief milking, it's not bad money. For example, if it's going to take you 4 hours at the weekend on a Saturday to milk, it's not that long, and it's good money as well. For example, if you're a student in college, I know of them that they're doing some relief milking in the area for dairy farmers, which is a nice bit of money for the week for them in college. Look, they're just very brief ideas I have at the moment.
And I think, Abigail, as a follow-on point from that, it is interesting. We did see that there was a dare I say, an oversupply of help on farms once COVID hit and lockdowns happened. You know, a lot of people returned home from more urban areas and there was a lot more help on farms, you know, whether it was a family farm or people helped out with a neighbour. And I think it's a good point you make, thinking outside the box. And if there isn't somebody on your doorstep that is suitable, maybe you need to look further afield. And I suppose from the employer point of view, you know, relief milking, as you say, can be good money, you know, going forward. And it can help, I suppose, in college night and the few nights out that you might have along the way. I think I've taken a lot from this conversation, and I think we need to maybe reprogram ourselves with some of our ideas of employment on farms and really engage with the farmers of the future and how we can work with them in order to retain staff and have a happy workplace. Thank you, Abigail.
Okay, Emma-Louise, thank you as well.
That's it for this week's episode of the Dairy Edge podcast, and my thanks to Abigail Ryan for joining me on this week's show. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast. You can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. And for more information, go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm Emma-Louise Coffey, and join me next time for your Dairy Edge.